hiya sa pag-aaral ng pamanang kultura. Ang mga talakayan na specific sa Pangasinan Cultural Heritage ay bibigyan ng mas malalim na pagtingin sa ikalawang parte ng serye sa mga susunod na buwan. So ngayon po, atin pong kilalanin ang resource speaker para sa webinar na ito. Si Ginoong Peter John S. Natividad ay ang kasalukuyang Vice Head ng National Committee on Museums sa ilalim ng Subcommittee on Cultural Heritage ng National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Siya ay naglingkod bilang consultant on museum and art collections management systems ng iba't ibang museums and galleries sa bansa, tulad ng Museo Kordilyera ng UP Baguio, Lopez Museum and Library, Ateneo Art Gallery, Iglesia ni Cristo Museum, the Museum-De La Salle University, at Iloilo Museum of Contemporary Art. At iba pa. Si Ginoong Natividad ay ang founding member ng Alliance of Greater Manila Area Museums. Siya ay may Diploma in Art Conservation mula sa National Research Laboratory for Conservation of Cultural Property sa Lucknow, India. So, ngayon po, inaanyayahan ko po si Ginoong Natividad. Sir, the screen is now yours po. You have until 3:20 to deliver your lecture. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon sa lahat ng mga bisita natin ngayon at nakikinig. So sa ngayon, ang aking pinasasalamatan ng Y4PH sa invitation to at isang malaking karangalan na maimbita dito. So itong presentation ko lang is I want to share kung ano yung mga past experiences with museum work with other colleagues, no, na-develop natin itong mga i-share namin sa inyo about technique and mga procedures, protocols on museum management and museum collections management. So basically, I just want to make it clear lang that this PowerPoint presentation is not focused on technical conservation methods per se, but basically a dialogue on the dynamics, on museum best practices and guiding principles, in more on the preventive care of cultural heritage objects. So the proposed general approach on the better appreciation of the concept of museum ay to understand as well as the key factors of the cultural heritage aspects that deeply connects with the guiding principles on the role and existence of museum. For example, no, with this topic, we're going to assume that the museum could represent as our physical body, and the cultural heritage represents the core values, wisdom, and source of initiative of museum functions like the programs, education, and protection of cultural objects. So to better understand this presentation, we can start with the point of view on the external and internal approach to have a platform of understanding how the cultural heritage and museum work work hand in hand. So let's start with the typical understanding, no? Here in our country, no, there's a typical misconception about what is a museum. So normally, itong ating nakikita, no, common misconception about museum. They're all building, dark, creepy spaces, kakatakot. Antique, all objects inside displayed are antique objects, kinaagyo, kinakalawang. Of course, boring because there's no thing happening inside. Then most of the time, these are, since elementary, you know naman, that these are a stopover venue for field trips and school tour. Mga tours na yan. So then after, diretso na mega mall. And then concept of museums are only for the rich, social, and for the educated people only. So for us to better understand, normally when we present about museum or anything about museum, we should define what's the definition of museum. So meron tayong tinatawag ng definition of museum from the ICOM, or that's the International Council of Museum. No? Ito yung parang mother institution to for us, museum workers. And at least you should know this as well. No? So this is how we define a museum as of 2007. So a museum is a non-profit, permanent institution in the service of society and its development, open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity, and its environment for the purpose of education, study, enjoyment. So lahat ng words, terminologies, malaking bagay yan for us, no? That how we will execute or implement this mandate for us to have this kind of purpose as a museum. So if we're going to summarize the definition of museum, so this is a cultural heritage objects are kept and protected inside the building. So to present real objects of beauty and interest from the past, so historical normally, to educate the visitors on their significance. So that answers the definition of to educate and entertain, no? And then to guard the objects from destruction. That's mainly for protection. And then from ICOM's definition, it is appropriate, no? This is a nice definition from ICOMOS. That's another institution. ICOM institution, sub-institution. Subcommittee from the ICOM. Definition nila is appropriate to reflect together with the ICOM's definition of museum. So their vantage points how they define the cultural heritage, crafting it in line with the museum's objectives in common direction in the aspects of education and protection of cultural heritage objects or property. So their definition is maganda. No? The cultural heritage is an expression of the ways of living developed by a community and passed on from generation to generation, including customs, practices, places, objects, artistic expressions, and values. No? It is often expressed as either intangible or tangible cultural heritage. So mamaya pupunta tayo dyan, lagi natin nakikita yung tangible and intangible cultural heritage. So this shows the wide concept of cultural heritage, categorizes the variation of the types of museum and responsibilities and conservation approach, along with the ICOM and ICOMOS museum objectives and its cultural heritage principles. So I will share with you the actual implementation of these obligations of our institutions, most particularly the Lopez Museum and Library. Since I'm the current, I work there currently, since 2010. So again, this summary, this is how we categorize the cultural heritage. When you say built environment, these are the buildings, or normally they call it built heritage, no? So townscapes, archaeological remains. When you say naman natural environment, these are the rural landscapes, so yung mga rice terraces, coast and shorelines, agricultural heritage. So artifacts, this is the role of our role. Ito sa mga museums and libraries and archives. Those are books, documents, objects, pictures. These are the tangible. So intangible heritage, those are the voices, values, traditions, oral history. So hindi kasama chismis, no? So these are all intangible. So hindi nahahawakan. So let me share you what we're doing with the Lopez Museum Library. Since Lopez Museum is quite unique, no? Kasi nga, not unique, but it's quite, they have a quite good program because they have everything from the fine arts, library, archives, and then meron ding dedicated conservation laboratory. So about the Lopez Museum, it was established in 1960. So we just celebrated last February the 60th anniversary of the Lopez Museum. But unfortunately, right now, the building demolished now. We're going to transfer again to another new building in Makati, maybe in 2022. Medyo na-delay lang because of this pandemic. So the Lopez Museum and Library, then the Lopez Memorial Museum before, housed primarily the prized works of Filipino master painters, Juan Luna and Felix Resurrection Hidalgo, and prides itself in its ever-growing collection of Rizaliana memorabilia and Filipino materials. Hailed a university with the professors by Clara M. Recto, the Lopez Museum Library, through its visual arts collection and its library holdings, build on history to foster national pride. Its founders' initial vision of the institution, fostering historical continuity, has expanded to further integrating relevance on its collection in recent years. So just reading the text from our website. You can check this out in our website. So about the programs, so you can see, the Lopez Museum upholds commitment to historical continuity and prevailing relevance, staying true to its nature as an educational institution. Its efforts are to present narratives both overused and obscure to foster nation building through the arts and through literature. Its exhibitions and programs are geared towards creating dialogue with history and creating spaces that make them relevant in the current day and age. Fostering community remembering and refusing uninformed revisionisms. The institution not only promotes the stewardship and preservation of historical materials, but furthermore encourages appreciation and deeper understanding, make it more than a storage space for objects, but an institution that enlivens and activates meaning. So you can see, I underline the words education, creating dialogue. So these are in line again with the icon definition of what is a museum. No? So mostly as far as Lopez Museum, and I know naman with other museums, talaga naman laging educational programs are talagang highlight lagi from their collections then. Okay, so these are our collections. Mostly we have a lot of Juan Luna. We have so much Hidalgo sketches and paintings, some more solos, and pre-colonial pottery as well. So marami pang iba. So archives, we have as early as 1520s, ng mga archive materials. Up to present, nagko-collect pa rin ang library namin. So we start with a specific role. No? We did the amount of numbers and significance of the Lopez Museum collections. We strictly implement the best practices in the conservation and preservation programs to fulfill our mission and vision in sharing the vast information in promoting Philippine arts and artists. So with this, we start with the specific roles of museum and how we protect the collections to further generate knowledge to the public by knowing the definition of one of the programs in a museum, particularly in the Lopez Museum, is collections management. So what is collections management? All activities related to the care of a collection from the time an object is acquired to its eventual disposal. So either the donation, binili, pinatabi, those are eventually magiging collections siya. We call it collections, so that collections ng pera. No? So collections, the proper term for the museum, it is a group of objects inside the museum. So collections management, or CMS, as we call it, covers documentation, registration, accessioning, cataloging, handling, storage, conservation, display, loan, and disposal of objects. So again, we have this another approach on how we implement the collections management system. Like we have this preventive conservation and preventive care, which yun ang aking specialization now. So that's why this presentation, don't expect that I'm going to teach you about the formula on how many percent of alcohol, mga preservation, chemistry, It's more on the preventive conservation, preventive care. So preventive care is basically consists of non-intrusive actions that take it to slow or stop deterioration and to prevent damage. So kasi this is much better than conservation in a sense that every time nasa stage ng conservation, restoration, or treatment, medyo malala na yung painting or artwork. So bago pa mangyari yon, doon pumapasok ang preventive care. So that's more mas non-intrusive nga, that at least we anticipate already what are the risks, what are the chances of may mga makakaroon ng mga damage. So this presentation is all about that now. It's about preventive care. So I'll show you later. And then these are the preventive care protection from 10 ages of deterioration. We got this from the CCI. You can check the website of Canadian Conservation Institute. Marami silang mga PDF, mga readings. So we follow this, these are the 10 agents, ng mga kontrabida. So these are the typical suspects, kung bakit nakakaroon ng deterioration or damage to an artwork or to an object. So these are the physical forces, thieves, vandals, fire, water, and then pests. So mga anay, mga ganyan, and then pollutants, light, UV, infrared, incorrect temperature, incorrect humidity, and dissociation. So these are the basic, You can read that with the PDF downloads in the CCI, and we can give you the website. So basically, we have identified the three major factors of risk to an object. So everything that I have said kanina, all these agents are within this three highlighted category of the risk o yung mga factors na delikado sa mga artworks. So number 1 is handling, number 2 is environment, and then number 3 is storage. So handling, we focus first with handling. So why handling is important? Because handling, it protects the assets. No? When you say assets, there are two definition of assets. One is more on the monetary aspect, on the value of the assets, or how you perceive an artwork. As mostly for private collectors, they want to resell and unload. Those are assets that would return, no, with monetary return sa kanila. So parang they're investing for an artwork. They'll buy and then they'll sell it. So those are assets, no? Another assets in terms of museum level, assets are important, significant assets, culturally and then historically. So those are the definition of assets in terms of in museum aspect, no? So because these are important cultural heritage objects, no? Kaya that's why we need to protect it sa handling pa lang. So normally we give 2 to 3 days training, no, with the Lopez Museum team for mga workshops before, no, mga handling pa lang. So and then number 2 reason is again, no, that was mentioned ko kanina, is the cultural to protect the cultural heritage sa other historical aspects of an object, and then to prolong the condition of the artwork. And then when do we apply the handling? So normally during exhibition, every time there's movement, ginagalaw, literally it involves handling. No? So inventory, when we check during in the museum, normally the yearly inventory, examination, treatment, pack, and then transport. And then who? Normally it's curators who are allowed, especially collections manager and registrars. Researchers, they're quite allowed, but sometimes with assistance, no, from the librarian or collections managers. Then art handlers are dapat trained installers, no, normally the staff. And then, but in other country, no, like Singapore, Europe, US, they have additional services with that. No? And then how? So how do we implement handling? So of course, number 1 is login planning. So you need to plan everything, no? Together with the exhibit curator, registrar, admin, no? And then art handlers. So why exhibit curator? Because the exhibit curator normally is the one who's giving direction, no? Directive dun sa mga, I want this, ito gusto ko, kunin nyo sa storage, hiramin natin. When you say hiram, the term for us is loan. We will loan or we will borrow from other collectors or other private museums. And then, doon na-involve na yung handling, no? And then the registrar is the one that is the official title, so just documenting everything, no? All the paperwork, documents, and the legal aspect of mga papers, registrar. Admin, of course, when we needed to inform the admin heads, no? Because of kailangan ng pera, kailangan ng coordination with the logistics, and then those are the people in charge with that. No? Art handlers, they're under the admin, or under with us as well. Sila yung sasabihan namin, no? You need to handle this care, dito lang ang tamang pressure at the end of this edge of the frame, do not touch on this part. So those are the part of planning. And even we sit on a table and then we plan even the traffic flow, when if it's inside the museum lang, and if it's outside loan, manghirap lang kami, we plan everything. No? What's the truck size, what are the packing materials, what time we're going to pick up, pag maulan, anong mga countermeasures, mga ganun. No? So number 2, how do we plan? And then how to evaluate. So this is very important, no? So you need to evaluate the significance, condition, type of materials, evaluate the integrity of display system, kung saan siya i-display, and then evaluate the installer's background, no? The capability of your staff, if they're capable to handle such objects, especially sensitive materials like papers, archive materials, or mga babasagin, pre-colonial pottery, mga ganun. So significance in terms of we condition the mindset, no, of the staff palagi as part of the planning. We evaluate, we tell them this is very rare, this is very important, so mas kailangan lagi natin iingatan, mas extra care, no? when you tell them the significance, the historical, and the cultural value of this piece. Condition, initially we do condition checks. We call it condition report. So evaluation, you need to check if there are cracks, there are ganon, and so how you can counter it as part of preventive conservation. So you need to know as well the type of materials. So para at least alam mong babasagin na, bakit wala kang extra caution, di ba? All those things, no? Because for me, no, I always say na collections management is a background of combination ng arts, science, and common sense, no? Yung lagi ko sinasabi. So integrity of display system, of course, you need to evaluate the size. Pagdating doon, maliit pala yung glass case ninyo. So those type of things, no? And then, and how we record them before, during, and after, no? We need to photograph. Right now, it's very easy, no? You have a high-res a cell phone, a smartphone, and then we have these forms, condition report forms, we call it. And then incident report, knock on wood, hopefully walang during the project, no, walang incidents, no. But at least that's part of the protocols. So these are the simple mga forms na hinahanda namin. And then insurance, no, very important, insurance. I can explain that later. And then documentation. You see, no, on the left side, no, that's our registrar. I think that's my colleague, no, si Thea, is doing the registration for the newly unearthed mga collections namin, no, mga early registrations of the library. So we're doing measurements, photographs, and then we have also developed our own database. On your upper right, you can see naman the Adobe Photoshop. No? We can put some mga annotations, and then we will print it. And then as part of recording the damages, we put it sometimes. Normally we put it in a digital platform. And then number 3, on the bottom right, no, those are the team, and these are some our volunteers, my students. We're teaching them how to document, how to record everything. And then here, this is, I believe we have a guest from Singapore right now. No, hi Johnny. Johnny is one of our colleagues, no, in the National Gallery of Singapore. So he's here right now. You can see you. Here they borrowed this, no. I think this is last year, right? No, so this is the UST collection. From the UST collection, this is the bust portrait of Juan Luna by Benlure. Benlure is I think is a European friends of Rizal and mga Hidalgo and Luna. Magaling siya sculptor. You can see naman, no. As part of the documentation, recording, this is how we record everything, no. So you can see, no, from the kita niyo yung discipline, no, ng our staff. Rod, I guess Rod is on the right. Is our senior conservator technician, no? I guess he's here too. Guess natin din siya ngayon, nanonood. So siya yung kasama lagi namin, together our staff din, si Myong. Ina-identify namin sa mga damages, sana hawakan, para alam namin sana hawakan, paano siya babalot, anong tamang packing materials. So 2 araw namin binalik-balikan to dahil merong on the bottom right of your screen, makita niyo meron siyang crack, no, nakakatakot talaga. This is plaster of Paris. So plaster of Paris yung parang pang mold ng pustiso, right? Yung parang powder na nagiging tumitikas pag natubigan. So ito yung material niya. So babasagin. So very very fragile. So this is how we pack yung mga collections, yung mga 2D. 2D is the paintings, no? Frame artworks. And then when we say handling, the principle of handling, normally I'll tell them that the principle of your hands, no, you must parang extend it to other type of materials as if your hand is this is your mga display support like this acrylic sheet, no. So minimum intervention, and then as well as dapat pantay siya, no? Minimum intervention dapat na-enjoy pa rin ng tao, na hindi nasa-sacrifice sa sobrang dami ng mga system, no, ng pag-display. So dapat relax lagi, walang pressure, walang stress sa mga objects. So this is in UP Baguio Museum, in Museo Kordilyera. Yeah. So kita nyo, no, may padding. Those are acid-free para hindi siya mag-accumulate ng acidity, na hindi para manilaw, mag-brown yung paper. And then these are acrylic sheets, no, bended, molded siya for that book. So those are kinds of another way of handling, no, through these visual cases. So as part of kanina, these are how we created this very fragile object, no, kita nyo. So, ganito padding, kita nyo foam yan, no? Styro and foam. This one, nakita nyo. These are 4 inches or 5 inches thick styro and foam. And then padding, and then wrapped with Tyvek and glassine. So, i-explain ko sa inyo mamaya yung mga materials niyan. So, this is how we pack yung mga, these are talagang the Lunas, the Hidalgos, no? when the National Gallery of Singapore, when they borrowed it, no? So malaking discussion before it was approved by the board. So ang bigat ng responsibility because the board requested us to make sure that talagang walang damage kahit isa, no? So we have to come up with this kind of protection from the environment control inside, padding for suspension, and then for everything, no? Even the wood, the materials are locally available lang, no? So lahat yan, nagawa naman namin and naibalik. So isa na lang nandun na iwan, Espanya, Filipina. So this is it. This is on your left, no? This is the Espanya version acquired by the National Gallery of Singapore. This is the Lopez Museum version. Almost same age, I think. Forgot. Sorry, Johnny. This is how we create, how we transport. We have moving company dito sa Pilipinas. Dalawa na sila na magaling talaga mag-handle. No? Nagpo-provide sila ng services. Normally, they, from packing, transportation, clearances from the airport. Sila yung moving company. No? These are Asian Tiger Lane moving company. And then this is how we roll naman yung mga big artworks. Pag kailangan talagang i-roll. This is our newly acquired collection from Zian Dairit. So Zian Dairit is a really good contemporary artist na. So when we bought it, siguro after 1 month, hiniram siya ng New York, some gallery museum in New York. I forgot. So ano siya, winter siya na hiniram, so kailangan iba yung packing na ginawa namin. So talagang makapal-kapal to, pabigat. And some samples of how this what we use for our lectures, mga workshops, and how you handle, how to hold or transport yung mga artworks. Pag malalaki, kita nyo ito, pag malalaki na, kailangan na ng mga mabibigat, malalaki, fragile, kailangan na ng mga trolleys with rubberized caster wheels, parang minimize ang vibration. So environment control. So how do we protect artworks? So normally these are the two factors, no, na medyo talagang malaking bagay na nakakasira lagi sa mga artworks. It's because of incorrect temperature and relative humidity. Yes, I know. Mostly from my experiences with other regional museums especially, they always ask me na hindi namin kaya yung aircon, no? Ideally, aircon are talagang, I think the most ideal talagang setting to have it protected inside the storage and inside the museum. But sabi ko nga, we can somehow naman, no, you can adjust. Pwede rin naman, electric fan, everything. But of course, pinag-usapan yung pinagpaplanuhan. So, mahabang usapan yung pag hindi kaya mag-adjust with the air condition. Siyempre, mahal ang kuryente, mahal ang aircon pa lang, di ba? So, kailangan talaga mag-adjust ng kung ano yung talaga meron lang talaga sa museum sa mga probinsya. So, kasi ang idea doon kung bakit lagi nating ina-adjust ang temperature, ang relative humidity. Relative humidity, ito yung mga moisture in the air, no? Kung bakit nagda-dump, no? Nagbabasa-basa ang ating mga object, lalo pag tag-ulan, dahil to sa humidity. So, i-explain ko sa inyo yan. So, ang plant kasi and animal products, they contain high proportion of water. And it is therefore not surprising that their products, organic materials, such as wood, paper, cotton, linen, wool, silk, etc., they retain moisture. So these materials are hygroscopic. When you say hygroscopic, they absorb easily. They're very sensitive to moisture in the air, no? So they can and will absorb or give off moisture until they reach a state of equilibrium with the air that surrounds them. So, to explain it more, basic lang. So parang when you have the t-shirt, di ba? When you have t-shirt, meron siyang print. So meron siyang print. Yung print na yun, imagine those are the pigments sa canvas. And your t-shirt, yung tela, that's the canvas, no? So every time you pull mo gano'n, pinupull mo, then parang rubber siyang gano'n, ang mangyayari doon, magka-crack siya. So that's why, that's the same concept of parang masyadong mataas ang relative humidity because of the material, no? It's hygroscopic and organic. And organic talaga, mapakahoy, mapatextile, mostly are talagang hygroscopic, madaling sumipsip. So parang lagi ko sinasample is yung bahay, na mga lumang bahay in the province, yung mga kahoy. In the evening, no, I'm sure you notice some houses, pag natutulog kayo, mga lumang bahay, ancestral houses, may mga tick-tick sounds, no? Yung those tick sounds, yun yung paggabi, nag-absorb siya ng malaking water, no? Nung humidity dahil malamig. So yung water, yung sa hangin, ina-absorb niya, namamaga. So yung mga joints, pag namaga, yun yung mga nag-click, nag-tick na sounds. Kasi nga, yung pressure, lumalaki yung mga joints. Yung mga joints na gano'n, namamaga dahil na-absorb niya yung water. So umaga, pag uminit na, magsishrink na naman siya. So contraction and expansion na gano'n. So everyday yon. So dahan-dahan lang yon. So yun ang nangyayari. So papakita ko sa inyo yung isang experiment na ginawa, no, sa book in Image Permanence Institute. So this book, they tested on how we can perceive, no, we can see the effect of fluctuation because of this play of the RH and the temperature na nagbabagsak ng lamig, init, lamig, no? So ito siya, 55% RH humidity, and then 55 to 75, so napa-fluctuate siya. So makita nyo, itong test na to, so to your left, this one, ito yung book na tinas nila. And then this is the RH meter. And then this is the timer. So you can see dito sa graph, this is the hours, ilang hours ng exposure na napapactuate yung relative humidity. So kung ano yung impact ng fluctuation, nung minsan bukas ang aircon sa umaga, sarado aircon sa gabi, so ayun ang fluctuation sa temperature na apekto ng relative humidity. So makatingnan nyo, focus dito sa libro, fast forward yan. So nakita nyo, contraction, expansion. That same principle with the materials of the artwork. So kahit canvas yan, kahit sculpture yan, so long are those materials are made from organic materials, that same effect, no, na nangyayari pag mayroong fluctuation of relative humidity and temperature. Okay? So in the Lopez Museum, this is the settings, no, yung mga binigay sa amin by our senior conservator consultant. No? These are the the acceptable, hindi naman ideal, no? But acceptable settings for the aircon and the relative humidity. So later I'll show you some equipment that we can parang use to control or to meet some of these required temperature and RH levels. So yung impact niya, pag laging ganun, there's a malaking impact din ito sa collections, mostly are molds, no? Kasi nga dahil parang pag ulan lagi, you'll notice sa mga damit natin sa bahay, lalo na ngayon, no? This monsoon season, yan na yung mga may amag lagi, di ba, sa bahay. So ganun, same effect, no? Pag ganun sa museum, lalo na pag kulob, and then on and off ang aircon, so ito nangyayari. So on your left, this is the one of the collections from the Metropolitan Museum, because I worked there before, no? Ako rin collections manager. So first time nilinis ko itong these are from Imelda Marcos collection that was donated to the Metropolitan Museum. I think this is a work from a print from John Miro. Since binili ng 70s or 80s, 2005 ko lang binuksan siya na nasa storage. Ito yung white color na, those are molds, no? Dahil patay sin yung aircon. Here, these are molds, no? Sa book. So napansin niyo lahat, organic material. Because of the wood, the paper, narito, so nag-absorb siya ng moisture. So yung moisture na yon, doon nagbabahay yung mold. And then, ito yung mga suspects namin. The indoor conditions may be affected by the following external and internal factors. So poor air circulation and ventilation. Right now, no, dahil sa bagong design na ginagawa namin sa museum namin sa Makati, so we really involve some AHU, yung mga expert talaga sa mga air condition at sa mga talagang magagaling sa mga architects, mga engineers ngayon, no, para maiwasan na namin yung mga mangyari sa amin sa loob ng museum. So, visitors din, masusurprise kayo. Pag maraming visitors, nagpo-produce yan ng kasi mainit sa labas, pagdating sa loob ng museum, lumalabas yung moisture, no, ng katawan. So, kaya kami, nung dati maliit ang museum namin, by batch, no, by 10, pag mga bus load, no, 10 students lang para hindi mabigla yung magkaroon ng fluctuation with the moisture inside the museum. So, yung in case o mga display cases, yung mga spotlights directed at objects, normally nakakaano rin yun, no? Because of before, iba yung ilaw, right now, LED, hindi na ganun kainit yung LED. So, water penetration, rising damp, may mga crack na mga building, dapat mini-maintain talaga mga museum, lalo na mga old building na ginagawa museum. So, sinasabi namin, yung mga crack na yan, doon pumapasok ng mga water, tapos magtataka sila bakit amoy amag. So kasi nga, dahil may mga nagsisip na water inside. And then sudden weather changes, nakaka-apekto rin yun, yung biglang ulan, biglang araw. So yung aircon din sa labas, sinisip-sip niya, papasok din yung ibang temperature sa loob ng museum. And then this is how we display, no, in the Lopez Museum. We have, you can see, no, we have this parang shiny plastic. This is mylar. It's a different type of plastic, no? So that reduces the impact of overexposure sa light, no? Para hindi mag-fade or mag-discolor from light. But because of the technology right now, we use na LED. So minimum na yung heat and UV from the LED lights, no? This is, I believe this is the Noli and Philly, the first edition sa machine, no? Nasa Lopez Museum. Then you can see, no, the lighting. So madilim, kaya noon before, no, sabihin, ba't ang dilim din sa Lopez Museum? Wala ba kayong pera? Aside sa walang pera, kasi foundation din ng Lopez Museum. We measure every day, no, the temperature, the RH per area ng museum. So aside from that, pag walang visitor, pinapatay namin yung ilaw kasi nga these are very, very sensitive paper materials, no, the sketches of Hidalgo, the lunas, archive material, so ma-lessen yung exposure para hindi mag-fade o mag-discolor. Aside from, meron kaming cover ng mylar sheets, no? So, yun ang reason namin bakit. Kaya yung iba, nilalagay namin dimmer, so para to reduce the exposure ng matapang na ilaw. So, we use this, no, also for silica gel desiccants. So, ito yung sa mga gamot, yung kakainin to, ha? So, design na nakikita niyo sa mga medicine, sa mga sapatos, to control nga, no, para hindi mag-amag. Even do sa mga medicines, para hindi magdikit-dikit yung mga medicine. Dahil pag may moisture doon sa loob, hindi dikit-dikit yun. No? So same principle. So it absorbs extra moisture in the air, but only in a specific controlled environment. So pag may ganitong kalaki ka na silica gel, so this is not enough, no, para 120 square meters. No? This one piece na silica gel is enough for parang container lang, no, kasi laki na lang platito. Totally sealed, no? Doon lang siya gagana. So, yun ang mas effective siya pag ganun ang ratio ng kanyang absorption ng space. Here, I just want to share, ito yung paano namin minomonitor. If you're exceeding, no, or under kami sa mga temperature relative humidity, we call it thermohygrograph, the one on your left. This is thermohygrograph, para siya sa earthquake monitor, no? This one is for temperature, and this one for the relative humidity. And then there's this is manual, no? Would you believe strand lang ng buhok ang laman lang dito, no? So yung isang hibla ng buhok ang napapaandar sa hygrometer, no? So para pag namaga, nag-absorb yung strand ng hair na yon, gagalaw yung kanyang needle. Tapos pag uminit, sisingaw, gagalaw ulit yung needle dun sa kanyang required level. So kaya may mga bad hair days talaga dahil nasa yan. And then this one is the digital version, no? The digital thermometer and hygrometer. This is the thermo, the temperature, the unit is centigrade, and the hygrometer below is the unit RH, no? So yan. So but kailangan kinakalibrate din yan, ha? So this one, ito yung on your left, this is the dehumidifier. It dehumidifies yung sinisip-sip niya yung extra moisture sa hangin. So meron siyang adjustment level yung gaano kalaki pag-absorb niya, yung mabilis. So dito papasok sa harapan yung hangin, and then sa likod meron siyang parang container. Meron siyang mga water droplets, no, na convert into water in the back side of this unit. So, siguro effective siya for 20 square meters with the 2.5 high ceiling siguro. Effective siya doon. Anything bigger than that, mahirapan na siya. So, dapat dagdag ka lang. This 20 by square lang. And then, unfortunately, pag nag-red na yan, umilaw na yun, umilaw na yan, ng red, ibig sabihin, puno na siya, manually, you need to unload if flash sa labas yung water. So, pag naiwan siya overnight, mas delikado. Kasi walang taong maglalabas ng water. So, ibabalik din niya sa loob ng storage yung excess moisture. No? So, this one, we call it the all-in-one digital precision equipment. This is the LSEC. I mean, I'm just showing you guys, this is not for you to parang follow specifically lahat ng sinasabi ko. No? This is just the ideal. No? So, I know naman, most of the museums cannot afford this, especially here in our case in the Philippines. No? So, ito lang pinapakita ko lang sa inyo. Talagang nagagawa naman, no, sa museum natin at may gumagawa na iba rin, no, aside from our museum. So, para lang share ko sa inyo na may magandang equipment that really monitor everything, na ito yung part na sinasabi natin, yung pag-protect natin sa ating mga cultural heritage properties. So, going back, this is the brand is LSEC. This is from UK. So, aside from very expensive, kaya konti nakaka-afford. But this is very precise, no? In this particular model, nalalag nga, no? And then USB, papakita na yung mga graph na gano'n, no? Ng temperature and relative humidity. So when you push this RH, yung button, lalabas yung relative humidity reading. And then when you push this button, yung T, temperature, visible light, and then UV, lalabas lahat yun. So all in one. And then for the storage system, so ideally, ito talaga ang minimum requirement. No? Of course, it should be clean, easily accessible during movement of objects, should have well-made racks and shelves. Alam niyo yun, yung talagang naka-compute sa mga space ng mga artwork na ipapasok ninyo. And then should have fireproof materials and system. Right now, yung mga dingding natin, no? May mga fireproof material na yan. And then you should have a secured monitoring system, meaning the CCTV, mga staff. And then roof and walls are safe from leaks. So dapat mini-maintain talaga, chine-check talaga. So yun yung mga preventive measures, no? Preventive care. So anything na may nakita na kayong leak, tapal na kagad. Huwag nyo na antayin na diba? So lumalaki. Nasira na yung building, nasira pa yung artwork, mas mahal pa magpa-restore ng painting, no? Yung mga artwork. So facilities and equipment are maintained. So sinasabi ko sa inyo, yung dehumidifier, dapat may religiously, may nakatutok doon, nagtatanggal. And then, yung mga electric fan, no? Pag walang aircon, dapat monitor electric fan, baka mamaya mag-overheat, sunog naman, no? So, yun, mga ilaw, mga outlets, sina-check din dapat yan. And then, with controlled access system, meaning either from the basic, no, padlock, or the protocol, who will have the duplicate, who will only access that. Guardia ba, kailangan bigyan. And then, who are accessible, sila lang merong level of access, no? So parang collections lang, manager or registrar or director and guard in case of emergency, yun lang ba yung access for the storage. Vault, when you say vault, these are the most important pieces. That's why it's inside the vault or storage. And then this is how we I don't know, put some our papers. These are acid-free material. May mga locally nag-assemble dito niyan. And then this is how we store temporarily our artworks, painting particularly. Ito, dapat yung mga painting, maglalagay kayo sa floor, dapat naka-rise siya. No? We call this padded blocks. Normally, these are foams, hard foam, styrofoam, and then styrofoam, no? Na matigas. No? Pero anything na mabigat, pag iniwan nyo sa gabi, kinabukasan, naka-flat yan kasi malambot lang yan. So baka bumagsak pa. So normally, what we do is pinipinturahan namin 2x2 plywood na tabla. 2x2 siya. Tapos babalutan natin siya ng yung styro na yung malambot. Yung babalutan namin siya ng mga 2-3 ply. And then, yun, lalagyan namin siya para hindi siya madulas. Anti-skid din siya. Para hindi siya, pag nakasandal siya, hindi siya dudulas, no, sa floor. So we call it padded blocks. And then, this is the basic, no? Basic siya na, I'm sorry. Sorry. So, ito yung aming basic na no, sa museum before. Ito yung aming racks na tinatawag na storage. So, may gulong and then flexible siya. So, yeah, flexible siya kasi makita nyo, yung nababago yung mga kanyang mga dividers sa loob. And ito yon, yung rack namin, nilipat namin sa bagong storage namin. And then we ordered some of this bagong namin, equipment. Ito yung mga metal rack na ngayon, but we make sure that these are powder coated, no? Hindi siya parang pininturang kamay lang. So powder coated is hindi siya ganung sensitive, no, sa mga pag nagpawis or hindi siya kakalawangin. So mga heavy duty na to. So malalaking artworks namin, dito namin nilalagay. Naka-box din siya. Ito, like to share lang, yung nag-attend ako na sa UP Los Baños, really surprising, no, na yung natural history museum nila and storage ng UPLB, no, sa isang department that stores yung mga insects, yung mga taxidermy, no, ng kanilang school at university. It's really impressive, no, yung kanilang system that they use the mothballs, yung mga anti mga insect na kumakain sa kanilang insects, no. So yeah, just want to share na may mga ganyan silang system, no. I forgot the term for this kind of boxes. So they even have the monkey eagle, no, saka hornbill. Na this was in the 70s pa to ng kanilang collection. So makita niyo yung background, no? Dami mga birds. Itong section na to, particular for birds. Amazing. May mga ganito pala bago sa akin na natural history na form of sa collections. I'm sure sa National Museum maganda, mas maganda siguro. And then ito yung mga sinasabi ko na this kind of storage system is really meant for big spaces na may mga malalaking collection, literally in size and numbers. But here in the Philippines, no, you know naman the situation here, no, that we only have so much sa ating mga spaces lang, no. So kaya gawa paraan na lang yun. But even if we have this kind of parang money, parang di pa rin masyadong comfortable. Of course, so pag malaki space, pwede kasi the amount of space na kinakain yan. So kaya yung ginawa namin yung rack system na digulong, flexible siya. So this is in UP Baguio Museum when we are constructing the museum pa nito, no? So makita nyo, ginawa din namin yung racks for textile, rolled textile, and then extra strong na design for wooden sculptures, no? Mga bulol. So mabibigat sila, so kailangan talaga medyo makapal yung mga bakal. So bakal to talaga. So these are, if you have money, if you have budget, so you can have this kind of system. No? These are compactors. Normally they're used in the library, but sa mga artworks, pwede rin. No? This is the Iglesia Museum storage. Back then, warehouse pa lang sila. So pest management also is very important to consider. Dapat alam din ninyo sa risk and disaster management. Kasama yun sa ating trabaho, the pest management. So here, makita ninyo, yung mga agency, marami naman dito, we monitor yung mga anay. No? And then here, on your right side, the UV care. Last year pa namin ito pinabili ko ito na experiment, no? Because based on our research, ang UV care, that brand is UV care, first locally available yung UV type C. Type C is the most dangerous, no, sa exposure ng tao. ABC, that's type ABC. A is the one that you see sa mga party, the black light. No? The type C is the one that kills yung mga germs, mga molds. Well, apparently, on our research, yung type C, it destroys the DNA of yung mga bacteria. So, hindi na siya magre-reproduce pa ulit pag na-expose siya sa UV type C, particularly. So, of course, no, this is the most, pinakamalakas. This is the strongest system at type of, controlling the mga amag and the mga insects. This is what we call the fumigation chamber. We have this in our museum, in the Lopez Museum. We have our own library conservation department. So, ito yung talaga in-expose siya for 7 days, no? Mga fumigants. So, every time ipapasok sa amin, strictly wala siyang pwedeng basta ipasok sa museum agad-agad. So, dito kada sa chamber muna siya papasok para sigurado hindi ma-infect yung ibang collections namin. So, this is a very effective method. So, in part of security and safety, part ng storage system, of course, you need to have again, no, these are ideal, no? I'm just sharing yun, no? So, ngayon, yung aming temporary storage ngayon, habang ginagawa namin yung aming museum, aside from the city ordinances, no, fire safety ordinances, those are the minimum standards na pina-follow namin. Yung mga alarms, bells, and then we have this access of, on the right side is the face recognition equipment, no, para maka-access ka sa loob. And then meron din thumb and ID access control, no, bago ka makapasok sa loob. And then these are the new technology now, the fire suppression system. Para siyang malaking fire extinguisher, but this is non-aqueous. So meaning hindi siya tubig, hindi siya mag-dispose ng tubig, hindi siya sprinkler. This is what we call the Novec 1230. So this is the newest technology. Before we have the FM200. Some museums right now, I guess, gumagamit ng FM200. No? Same principle. But this is the Novec, the brand Novec or KD. They say, pag nag-dispose sa air, mga mas mabilis siya matunaw sa mas eco-friendly siya in that sense. So let me share again, no, materials and equipment commonly used for handling and packing sa aming museum. So we have this glassine. So para siyang tracing paper na waxy. So semi-transparent. So this is the first layer that we use for when we pack the painting, lalo na without glass. Para siya yung didikit sa painting dahil wax siya, meron siyang konting minimum amount of wax layer. Hindi siya didikit kaagad dun sa oil paint, no? Kahit dumikit siya, madali siyang tanggalin. Hindi tulad ng paper talaga, dikit siya, naiwan pa yung paper sa oil. Next is the bubble wrap. Like ko sinasabi, marami ng buhay na sinira to kasi na-addict, kakapap, no? So, the waterproof siya, but again, no, yung mga artists na sinasabi namin, mga visual artists, painters, we tell them that don't use this as a long-term na storage packing material kasi makukulob siya, hindi sa sumisingaw. So, unang layer lang sana is glassine, no? At the same time, when you use this product, always keep the bubbles facing out. Kasi pag iba, walang glassine, diretso siya, yung bubbles, nagmamark siya. So, makita nyo, pag tinanggal siya, na-store siya for 5, 10 years, 2 years. So, pag tinanggal yung bubble wrap, yung bubbles na bilog-bilog, nakamark na siya dun sa oil. No? So, bubbles out, tawag namin. So, there's a foam core, but normally we don't use it. Para lang alam ninyo, meron ganyang type of system. And then foam, these are cardboard. So cardboard, this is very hygroscopic. So hindi siya magkukulob kahit nakabox siya. Ang artwork, hindi siya magkukulob kasi nga hygroscopic siya, organic material, paper. So yun ang mangyayari doon. May protection na siya, parang extra cushion. At the same time, nakakasingaw. In that sense, yung mga naka-box na mga object. Pero hindi siya dapat long term, no? These are the foam board o parang foam board, no? Made up of layer of sandwich between ng mga paper. So paper siya sa labas, parang sinandwich na yung foam sa gitna. Normally ginagamit ito sa mga captions o mga title na nilalagay sa tabi ng paintings. And then normally we use this as padding, cushioning sa crate o sa mga boxes. Then maganda din siyang pang-control ng environment, no? Pag naka-box siya. And then styrofoam, this is what we use for our crates, especially pag mga long distances, mga abroad na mga biyahe, or even fragile, even in domestic trip lang, or very fragile objects. So kasi this serves as parang cushion talaga. Lalagyan namin isa pang extra layer foam para may laro. And then the concept of yung, alam niyo yung Coleman, di ba? The Coleman, when you slice it into half, no, makikita niyo foam lang naman yun, styrofoam lang naman nasa gitna nun eh. So binayaran niyo lang yung tatak sa sorry. So yung concept of that, yung napipreserve yung lamig, no? Yung parang nasa palengke, makita niyo lalagyan ng mga ice drop, ice candy. That's the same concept, no? To preserve yung environment sa loob. So with that principle yung ginagamit namin. So of course, pinag-aaralan anong thickness, gano'ng karami. Then ito yung polyethylene foam, ito yung pinababalot namin sa mga padded blocks, sa mga kahoy para as padded blocks yan. Maganda rin to pang balot, no, ng mga malalaki. Acapulco o Paluchina, these are the plywood and masonite. Ito yung type of materials that we use for the crates. So tapes, we have a lot of tapes, no? But we have this quite expensive lang na tape, no? Ito yung ginagamit sa pang-repair ng mga tear for library archive materials. Pag napunit, yan yung tape, makita mo, pag pinatong mo siya, pag didikitin ng dalawang pilas, transparent siya. So parang hindi siya kita. But at the same time, when you need to parang pull it off again, hindi natatangay yung paper. Kaya maganda siyang tape. Mahina yung adhesive niya. Oops. Then gloves, we use different types of gloves, no? We have this nitrile gloves, yung blue. And then there parang pang CAT, pang cadet, no? Sa school, yung mga cotton gloves. We have this dotted rubber palm. These are for the mga crate, no? Yung mga dotted palm na yan. This one, ito ginagamit lang to, don't use it with paper, mga books, no? It will destroy the paper. Surgical gloves, di ba gusto, di ba ayaw kasi because of the powder inside the gloves, no? This for me is quite effective because you know the exact pressure that you're going to apply when you hold an artwork, especially the mga papers, no? So nitrile gloves for chemicals, no? Maganda to, hindi siya tatagos. Cotton gloves, I don't recommend it much doon sa mga lalo sa papel kasi if you look closely, no, doon sa may mga threads siyang maliliit. Most of the time, parang meron siyang naiiwan sa mga paper, bisa napipilas yung paper sa mga maliliit na fiber from these cotton gloves. And then we go na to the role of arts and community. So community collaboration is very important, no? Because these are the collaborative impacts are effective for the development of relations between museums of the region, including through the establishment of joint projects like mga festivals, art concerts, contests, and mutual promotion of the various forms of intangible cultural heritage, which are in the focus of some museums. So these are, so basically the collaboration na sinusunod based on the ethics of the ICOM of 2004, they preserve, interpret, and promote the natural and cultural inheritance of humanity. Museums provide opportunities for the appreciation, understanding, and management of natural and cultural heritage. It holds resources that provide opportunities for other public services and benefits. Museum work in close collaboration with the communities from which the collections originate, as well as those are they serve. So parang nakakatulong talaga, no, ang collaboration with the usually mga artists, community. So because community, we have three categories type of communities in relation with museum work. So first are communities of place, what we call it community of place. Those are people who live within or near the heritage. So communities of interest, so those who feel a connection to or are interested in heritage. So mga nasa mismong mga tao nasa, like you in Pangasinan, no? This group, your group, no, Youth for Heritage, na kayo ang interesado. And then communities of practice, those who work with heritage. So parang best example here is yung mga taga-Paete, no? So those people are working, they are the heritage of the town, and they are the provider of heritage, no, with their products. So let me share with you yung ginawa namin, no, with the Quiapo book. Kasi in-exhibit namin tong lahat ng, nauna i-exhibit ng Quiapo 2002, I guess 2002. This is the major project na in-handle ko under Metropolitan Museum. So lahat talaga literally pinagpag namin, pinaktak namin ng Quiapo para na makakuha ng ibang unusual, hindi not the typical museum objects that you might say, no. Talagang we gather from mga bahay, we knock on old houses, even Dr. Shalsita, no, is with us, no. Parang talagang nangongolekta kami ng mga pyesa that we borrowed, no. Even the replica, the 50% replica of the Nazarene, no? Black Nazarene, we were able to borrow that from Quiapo Church, and we put it inside. No? And you see, the community went inside, no? The religious community. Parang every other day, they are praying, offering flowers. No? So parang nag-extension of Quiapo ang Metropolitan Museum. No? Ang interesting doon is during our research, together with my director, Director Ino Manalo is now with the National Archives. When we're doing research sa isang bahay doon, 19th century, no? Parang 19th century or early turn of the century, mga houses sa isang Hidalgo area. We discovered the last existing letras y figuras, no, known to the art community. This is on your right. Makita niyo yung Isidra Lim, no? Parang ano lang to, novice lang, no? Parang hindi to yung talagang mga big, hindi to compared dun sa gumagawa talaga ng sikat na letras y figuras. So makita mo, gift niya to dun sa nag-ampon sa kanya, dun sa bahay. Natinirhan niya, artist siya, so ginawa niya ng letras y figuras. Tapos tinanong namin, ano po mga lumang gamit niyo dyan, pwede po mahiram pang exhibit. Meron akong drawing ganito, hindi labas na matanda. Yun nga, nagulat kami. So, to date, no, ito yung huling discovered na letras y figuras. And then, the community of within the Pinto, Johnny, you're here. So that's Johnny, no, and Rod. This was just last year, no. The beautiful thing about Pinto Museum is the uniqueness of the programs, the venue, the architecture, the honor is very interesting, no. And then of course, no, the numbers of collections really amazing. So ang impact dito na sa community ay yung paano niya na-influence yung community, not just the community of the subdivision, yung location ng kanyang museum, no, but yung impact niya with the community of artists in that region, in our region, because we are in the same region, Rizal, no. So talagang yung influence niya, no, mas lalo nagkaroon ng venue, parang may another venue for exhibitions aside from Manila-based galleries and museums. No? Here, they have nice and nasa museum level standards na rin ang kanilang mga facility, equipment, and gallery talaga. So, would you know that this is parang 3 years ago, this is the top 3 most Instagrammable place in the world, no? So, na-feature siya doon. So, another community museum relationship impact nito. I hope lahat kayo makapunta dito. Kasi nung in-invite kami, yung NCOM, yung committee namin sa NCCA, nung kakabukas lang yan, Distilleria Lintuaco Museum. Ang maganda rito, this is another dimension, no? Another how they present yung thematic exhibitions, most particularly on their product, about the company, and about the owners, no? So we didn't know, me particularly, I didn't know na sila para hanggang ngayon, yung gumagawa dati ng shoktong, kulafu. So Distilleria Lintuaco pala yun. So and other products na ang dami-dami that you can see here. And sa shelves nila. Well, isang masarap sa akin, dalawang kanilang entrance fee, 100 and 200 pesos. For 200 pesos, you get parang only shot, no? Lahat ng shot ng product nila. Kaya nung lumabas kami dito, lasing ako. No? So for 200 pesos, not for the kids. No? But for 100, no, they will sure appreciate. I mean, for kids also, because of the way they display it. The volunteers are really dedicated. No? They know that what they're talking about. And then talagang maganda, no? Pinag-aralan ang kanilang pagkaka-exhibit ng mga pieces. So again, this is my experience in Buagan, Kalinga. So I didn't know, no, na meron palang dito pala tumakbo si General Emilio Aguinaldo. Unfortunately, tinanggal ang marker. So they invited me to help them, no, to assess the building if they could transform it into museum, no. So this kind of museums, that their initiative. Well, aside from the mandate of the SGLG, no? Kasi there's a mandate from DILG that parang every museum should consider having a museum or repository of their cultural, historical information. Yung iba talaga via museum development or construction, literally. So in this case, well, normally they want to transform all buildings, built heritage na ngayon siya makakategorize na maging museums. Normally, gano'n naman. No? So, imbes na i-abandon, imbes na gibain, local governments normally, pinagawa nilang museum, mga old municipal halls, municipal buildings. So, this is quite an experience. No? It took us 15 hours, no, by land travel. So, another beautiful, no, great example of local government initiative. No? This is in Cagayan Museum, when also they invited us, no, to assess, to assess and make recommendations on how can they improve the system, the museum system, because they have converted it already, no. And the bigger picture, this is the time when we inspected it, where it is being developed and reconstruction is still going on. And then I checked the website na recently. It's finished now, and they're transferring now from the old museum to this new. This used to be the provincial jail of Cagayan. No? So very historic, very nice. No? So hindi na siya nakakatakot. So maganda na siya ngayon. Even the building itself. Another community-based project, no, that involves some community efforts, no, through LGU initiative naman is the Bayongbong in Nueva Vizcaya. So they also requested us to redesign from the concept, redesign of the programs, redesign of the layout. So we came up with this, no? So we invited several experts here. Of course, no, that's how you do it. No? You invite academics, experts. You just don't do it, no, by the sake of I just want it kasi magandang tignan, maganda dito pwesto. In museum, no, conceptualization and development exhibit, you should research, study, and as much as possible, kung hindi expertise, mag-invite kayo. Marami tayong colleagues, no? So that's how you do it, no? So from the aspect naman of the providers of the pieces that's being exhibited, or nagiging props, or nagiging artwork mismo, these are the people, no, that supports the connection that supports the museum and community. The one on your left side is the mga buburda, weaving from Bulacan that makes very intricate, and they follow the Spanish type and the Spanish material. All the threads are imported from Spain, Europe then. So on how the 19th century type of embroidery, no, sa mga poons, sa mga religious icons. On your right, these are the typical ordinary group of women in La Union, local lang. So they supply everything, and then eventually napupunta rin siya sa museum. So these are the people who are still making this heritage, that eventually na nagiging part ng museum. Not just sa kwento, but also yung mga kanilang products. Like literally on my left side is, on your left side is the artist from Angono. We invited him to do illustration, not to display his artwork, but to do some illustrations so that it can parang visualize. We can visualize some thematic exhibition namin for a particular exhibition. So this one is a portrait of the highlight of exhibit ng person na finiture namin. Minsan naman, on your right side is our colleague, good friend of everyone, Ricky Francisco. Pareho kami, we were invited by the Saturday group, one of the oldest group of artists. Parang this time we are giving preventive conservation lectures, like this one, particularly this same lecture to the artists on how to protect, how to use the material, what not to use this kind of material para tumagal ang kanilang mga artworks. And then this one naman is community in terms of colleagues and mga academics, community inside the campus. It is the beautiful recently opened the UP Baguio Museum, the Museo Kordilyera. And Nick is part of this now when we're doing this. So even the Hagabi, the one on the big chair, the biggest so far na nakita ko, na long-term loan from Bencab Museum. So that kind of community, connections. So even Bencab is an artist, not necessarily the artwork is in his artworks are inside, wala kang makita, but his collection. I mean, the connection again is there, Mas lumalalim ang connection ng community ng museum within the environment. So to the upper right, I think that's the original tapping tools of Wang Ud that the curator, the Wang Ud gave it to her daw, to Ikil, to Professor Ikil. So we were able to display that. And then this again from Bayongbong, ito sinasabi ko sa inyo na kailangan naman ng mga props na galing sa mga artists. So makita nyo, these props are from the craftsmen, yung suot nila, of course from the original location, iba-ibang region, iba-ibang lugar sa Cordillera. So from the weaving, yung mga suot, from the process, pagsuot na yung sample, even Tagalog, mga Filipiniano costumes. On to your right, pinaka-interesting dito, yung mga props, makita nyo, yung etag, we need to para pang customize it pa. Here, from Paete, see the collaboration. That etag and those chickens, those fruits, vegetables, came from Paete. So those connections, na hindi natatapos in 1 year with the same geography lang. But again, it continues pa rin yung nakakatulong-tulong eventually yung community of arts and community. So kita nyo, sa Paete, this one particular store, siya lang gumagawa ng mga talagang almost real fruits and so nagpagawa lang kami, customized in Paete. So the role of government agencies, so these are other arms on a national level. So these are museum communities national level with the same task as promoters, sources of information of cultural heritage programs in their respective institutions. Each has its own mandate and task and various experts in the field. So medyo I like to emphasize shortly lang with the NCCA as part of the cultural heritage community. As I have been involved in this institution for quite some time, you might want to check your regional association in your sector. Are you even aware that there's such a thing in your region? Your regional sector could assist you to request funds, technical assistance, nationwide cultural activities collaboration, if your local cultural heritage museum groups are officially registered and active in your field. So let's see where your regional sector is and who who you might need to contact, no? So when you check the website, we are under the subcommission, and then we are under the subcommission of museum or any field that you want, no? Kung saan expertise ninyo. So in our case, we are under museum. So when you click the museum, you'll see all the regional representatives. So lahat tayo, buong Pilipinas, meron. For us, no, this is the AGMAM. This is the NCR Association of Museums. So in your case, you are in CLAM, so Central Luzon Museum. So you might want to coordinate with Ms. Karen, no? She's from Tarlac yata. So magandang resource network, no, in your group. And the role of other cultural organizations. So I hope by this time, everyone's perception on what is a museum and its role are richer to all our participants today. So can you still recall our first slides about the misconception of museums? I hope too that I was able to convince and transfer the experiences of joy and fulfillment on my job as the yaya, no, of cultural heritage objects. You could start to participate in this coming NCCA NCOM events, no, with this other cultural agency. So you see this mga konim, these are the other cultural arms, no, ng museum works, no. So kung interested kayo dito, you can contact them, join them, no. So these are connected with the community of the museum that I'm talking about kanina. Recently, I'm very interested, no, dun sa mga, would you believe that there's a group or cementerio, heritage cemeteries of the Philippines. They do photographs, no, on old cemetery, no. Interesting. You'll be surprised that there are other known sculptors, no, na gumagawa ng mga angels, no, and then bas relief sa mga puntod, no. Even Philippine historical markers, there are people who are doing this group are doing inventory of historical markers, no. So aside from NHCP, of course, no. But on their initiative, parang hobby lang. Trip lang, pero masaya. Good institutions at katulong natin to. So right now, ito yung advancement natin nakikita. But what is the future with the museum now? So in terms of technology, sabi ko nga, no, lahat tayo sa nangyaring pandemic na to, so naging technology-based na tayo and naging alcohol-based pa tayo, right? So dahil talagang with this pandemic, kailangan mas creative pa tayo on how we can survive this kind of situation. Not here just in the Philippines, it is an entire world scenario. So with this one, where some museums are now using QR technology, no? So some are using photogrammetry. I was unlucky enough to enroll in this class, no? For how you document. How do you document the collections right now to make it accessible with this kind of situation right now, no? So to make it 3D experiences, na parang there's no chance right now to visit collections. So yung iba ginagawa talaga to document in 3D to have that kind of 3D experience. And then in our case, we already started, we finished it, naglagay na kami ng mga RFID on each collection, sa painting, sa library collection, archives. Nilagyan na namin lahat ng RFID para pag mag-inventory, at the same time, pag magbabarrow, digital na, para we can upload it and then they can access it online na. And then the future equipment. This is for the collections management purposes, no. This is the new high-tech mga not new, existing na to before pa, but we're considering purchasing this kind of sensors that can mas precise ang record of temperature and relative humidity, and then wirelessly throw the information to your computer. So these are a different brand of sensors. Right now, we have purchased in the museum, no, the Tempo disc. No? By accident, I just nakita ko lang to, no, in the website, browse lang. We purchase it and then we put it now in the crates. So para every time we acclimatize, hindi na yung, hi, kumusta na? Pwede ka namin buksan. Pwede ka na bang buksan namin kasi malamig na sa loob na ito. Kasi when you inside the crate yung mga paintings, in-acclimatize pa yan. Bago nyo ipasok yan, hindi basta-basta pwedeng buksan yun kasi nga mabibigla So same principle with all the persons with eyeglasses. Pag lumabas tayo ng mall, di ba? Nagpapawis yung salamin. That same principle, ganun din nangyayari sa mga artworks. So lalo na mga hygroscopic, remember? So pag nabigla ang pasok ng change ng temperature, pwede siyang mabanat, pwede siyang mag-shrink. No? Kaya dati, parang papakiramdaman namin, hihipuin lang namin yung crate, pwede ka na bang buksan, tapos ganun. Ngayon, right now, kasi may Bluetooth na siya sa loob, nakikita na namin siya accessible sa mobile na, oops, okay na, pantay na yung, binubuksan na namin ng konti, and then pantay na yung temperature from inside the crate and outside the gallery. So that's the right time na para alam namin. So, ngayon, yung the future of platforms ng ating museum, no? Marami nang gumagamit. Right now, we're using one of the technologies now, the Zoom technology. And then, mga YouTube, dumami na. Mga, hi guys, dumami na mga ganun. And then, ngayon, that is the platform for meeting, presentation, and then showing the collections, showing the tour inside, recorded, yung mga tours from the museum. You might want to check the Museum, no? Ang galing ng tour ng mga curator, no? So this is another platform, digital platform na tayo. And then you might want to check, no? Yung mga platform ng mobile apps. We have this art museum where you can, inside your house, no, while under lockdown, no, you can put some like Mona Lisa in your background, parang augmented reality they call it, no. And then same thing with Google Arts and Culture. You might want to check this, no. Around the world, no, they're participating with this. I guess Ayala Museum is part of this Google Art experience. No? They present their collection and then they have their pictures of their collections. Nice. And then I got this article, no, at some museums, art is now on the outside as part of this pandemic, no, is quite timely na, no, that para wala ng mga close interaction, they project the collections, no, outside the facade of the buildings. So they call it the sommelier. Okay. In Spanish, the French for sound and light, no. And then inside, I guess yung iba familiar, dinala dito to, no, yung Van Gogh experience, no. That's high definition projection, no. As in talagang that costs around millions and billions of pesos yung one projector. So this is an interactive presentation, no, na you can see the texture daw. I haven't seen this yet. So you can see the texture through the projection of the Van Gogh's artworks, no? Even the pigments in texture makikita nyo. Then some museum right now, I got this article as well, no, sa internet, that some museum installation as Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands, they brought their collections outside, no? Kasi nobody's going inside na the museum, eh. Kasi nga takot, aside from they're afraid, no, from the security and health. So ang ginagawa nila, the museum are not going outside to their community again, no? They're the ones reaching out for the community. So they're, in this case, no, quite amazed, no? They're putting their original collections outside in the airport. So while you're waiting for your flight, no, you educate the visitors and the people, while it's displayed in the airport. Galing. So again, no, this is another interaction, no, collaborative effort for the community, no, but the one gallery, the National Gallery, I think this is also in Europe. No, yung piniprint nila on the tart, I guess large scale, the collections from the original collections, and then ilalagay nila this site specific, no, artworks, no, pinopost nila yan, and then maganda daw yung experiences, no? Maganda yung response ng public, no. But quite surprised at the same time, amazed na meron palang collection in their museum, in their local museum, na may magandang collection pala. So nagiging interesting para sa kanila. So this is the one I'm telling you, no? So you could join the NCCA initiative on this program. You can start participating on this coming NCCA NCOM events, October, no? Annually nangyayari to. So ito yung yung ambag ninyo na pwede ninyo magkaroon kayo ng parang initiative or participation through your local group, And then your local group can coordinate with the NCCA, regional members, na pwede kayo mag-participate dito, no? Na meron tayo tinatawag ng Museums and Galleries Month. So, yun yung nangyayari to. This is from last year. So, wala pa yung nade-develop na bagong theme and poster. So, even for librarians, there's these are innovative, interconnected na mga programs, no? For these are annual, November naman nangyayari to. So, these are the programs that's happening every year na ginagawa ng NCCA. So check your local area. Might be surprised that you have important cultural heritage sites near you then, no? And then this one, so if you want to participate, if you want to have that kind of parang contribution to your community, you can check, no, this website, no? Meron program ang ginagawa ang NCCA that's mapping it's a cultural mapping of the entire Philippines, no, for important cultural heritage sites, built heritage, yung mga lumang kahit mga bahay, mga importanteng tao, narito lahat, no? So kung meron kayo doon, pwede kayo mag-submit diyan, of course for approval ng NCCA. So ito yung inyong pwede maging contribution, no, sa inyong community. So again, no, this is the last. So I want to end my presentation with this artwork in the Lopez Museum last 2017 by my classmate. No, this is my classmate's work, si Pamela Yan Santos. This for me represent the museum, arts, and cultural heritage sectors, most particularly in this very difficult situation. Her artwork represents the uncertainties generally in the cultural heritage sector on how do we stay relevant. So yun ang laging natanong natin, no? Even before. But right now, how do we stay more relevant with this situation? So the text in her work read us, see the bigger picture, contrary to its size. That size for me is the scale of the cultural heritage situations that reflects the challenges in pursuing our role as cultural workers, museum workers, and artists in various fields. But nonetheless, as they say, we're resilient as most of the time. We thrive the challenges that our museums still exist. So in this lockdown, museums are one of the categorized non-essential establishments that are not allowed to operate until the last quarantine level or MGCQ is lifted. Our profession and organization might not be the most essential to some, but we must continue our role and obligations with our vocations as we are the sole keepers of culture and heritage of this nation. Thank you po. Salamat.
Thank you po. So, on behalf of the Y4PH Board of Advisors, Board of Officers, members, and the participants of this webinar, we thank you, Mr. Peter John S. Natividad, for the detailed, informative, and comprehensive lecture on the role of museums and museology in heritage conservation. The presentation itself truly embodied not just the aesthetic character, but also the social and educational function of museums. Balagya salamat po. So, for the participants, isi-send ko na po yung link to the evaluation form sa chat. So, nandiyan na po. So, you can click po. Tapos, isi-share screen ko rin po yung link kung gusto niyo pong picturean. You may type your questions na po before we proceed to the Q&A portion in a few seconds. Yan po. Makipicturean na lang po. Nasa screen niyo po yung evaluation form. Deadline po niyan ay 5 p.m. today. Magsasara po yan at 5:01. Alright, you have 10 seconds para picturean po or screenshot. Nandiyan naman na sa group chat kung gusto niyo po. Pwede niyo na pong i-click. Alright. For next week, our next speaker is Ms. Ellie De Castro, MA Archaeology from UP Archaeological Studies Program, and she is also a National Geographic Young Explorer. So, ang pamagat ng kanyang lecture for next week, August 22, Saturday, same time, 2 to 4 p.m. ay Heritage and Science Communication, Engaging the Youth and the Community. So, ipopost po yung pre-reg link tomorrow sa Y4PH Facebook page. Okay? So, let's proceed to the Q&A portion po. So, pwede nyo na pong i-type yung mga questions nyo or kung sino pong gustong magsalita, please raise your hand. May raise your hand function po dyan sa Zoom account po ninyo. Tapos, i-unmute po kayo para i-raise yung question nyo or concern or comment for further discussions po. Officers, pa-assist na lang kung sinong magre-raise ng hand. Para mas interactive po tayo. So, we encourage you to ask your questions orally. So, i-unmute po kayo para sabihin po niyo, itanungin yung gusto niyo itanong or comments. And also to the Y4PH members na umattend sa webinar ngayon, magkakaroon po kami ng post-processing session. So kung gusto niyo sumali, you must remain dito sa Zoom meeting natin. So para ma-post-process natin yung mga kung anong nangyari from 2 hanggang ngayon.
Ayun, once again, thank you very much, Sir Peter. Ayan. Very enlightening yung lecture natin ngayong hapon.
Thank you, Ren, for inviting me.
Questions?
Ayun, so everyone, we encourage you to ask your questions. Ayan po, you may type in your questions dun po sa aming Zoom chat. Ayan. Or siguro partner, you may ask the advanced questions na send sa atin. Yes.
Sige.
Habang hinihintay natin yung iba na mag-send ng kanilang questions.
Wait lang, ano ba yun? Sige, yung advanced question, ito. How can we involve the youth in built heritage conservation? How can we involve the youth in built heritage conservation?
Built heritage. So, actually, there's a different platform of interest. No? So this is the challenge now for the young heritage workers or who wants to try cultural work. So what will be your role? No? Given this information that I've shared with you all, the initiative will start with active participation beginning with small steps siguro. So not just for built heritage, but for all type of cultural heritage aspects, no? Maybe you want to check what objects are within your house that has been in your family for the longest time. So question again is how important that object or objects to your family. Is it rare or unique? You may want to record it, no? So document it. So even sa aming term is catalog it, no? So cataloging is, when you say cataloging, that's the parang bio, so the biodata of an artwork, no? Put it safe and secured place. Ask more information from your parents or grandparents. So those are the things that you might want to record. So you may want to check your local barangay community. Do you have old houses in your neighborhood? Kapitbahay mo ba? May mga ancestral houses? Sino nakatira doon? Someone historically important ba sa inyong locality? What are the parts made of? So that's part of the built heritage interest now, initiative, no, on documenting it. So, gaano ka-intricate? Are those unique from our structures that we have visited outside your town? So, meron bang pakakaiba? You may want to check your local government's cultural heritage programs din. What's their program? Kung meron program na sasalba ba to, yung pag na-realize mo ninyo na important na tao pala nakatira doon, even the parts of the house or even the architectural design is very important. No? How can you help to improve it? So do you have a museum in your hometown province? So these questions, no? Or would you like to have would you like to be a heritage volunteer sa museum ninyo kung meron kang existing museum or may mga ganun mga advocates na nag-monitor ng mga built heritage. So maraming tanong, no? Even the municipality has started with this cultural mapping. Tanongin niyo, no? Meron na bang cultural mapping na nangyari? Kung wala, then that's the time you coordinate with your local group. And then yung sinabi ko sa inyo na sa NCCA, you might want to check what particular region, no? In your case, no? Central Luzon Association of Museums, that's what we call it, no? So ang representative ninyo is from the Tarlac Museum na pinakita ko ngayon sa inyo. So doon, from there, you can elevate it to NCCA level, no? Para you can have your funding, technical assistance. They can send experts, no? When you request it. So yung mga NCCA will shoulder the cost, no? Yung mga experts na yan. So mga academics, yung mga architects, kunwari kung meron kayong built heritage na gustong ipa-assess, ipa-map, all those things, no? So kailangan nga lang, you need some initial documentation, no? Because of those mga government system, they need documents, no? So registration, so accreditation, those things, no? So kaya you might want to coordinate with your regional association.
Salamat po.
And thank you, sir. And
question from Mr. Johnny Chen po. So could I ask about Peter's thoughts on ICOM? Ano po itong ICOM? ICOM's new proposed definition in 2019 for the museum that was hotly contested by members of ICOM and the museum community. Notably, the additions of contribution to human dignity, social justice, global equality, and planetary well-being. Do you think it signals a new role for museums and youth heritage workers?
For me, no, but personally, sorry, Johnny, I wasn't able to attend the ICOM Kyoto. No? I guess that's where it all started with this mess. The mess in a sense of because of there's so many disagreements at first on whether do we really need to have the new definition of a museum. So those people who wants to have this kind of change, so update the definition. Well, for me, you know, yes and no, but yes, it's a good thing that you update it, but no, in a way that I'm quite leaning on that no way, in a sense that because of there's too many literal issues that they want to include literally included in the definition, in every sentence. But that's not the issue for me. That's not the issue. It's in the impact on, because as they say, we cannot tell if it's successful if you don't do it, based on if it's going to be approved. But for me, I'm not that kind of informed yet with this kind of dilemmas that's happening internally with ICOM. Alam niyo ba that some ICOM officers, they even resign or parang they walk out, no? Because of this, just for this issue globally. If we're going to, if even we need to, change or update the definition. Because some people are they say, no? Because of this, especially when he mentioned the contribution to human dignity, social justice. So many factors, no, that need to be evaluated, no, before they can iron out these things. Sorry, Johnny, I'm not too familiar. Thank you.
All right.
Ayan.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Okay. There's a question here, I think related siya dun sa isang advanced question. No? So, question from Miss Marie Mendoza. How can one start a career in museum or art conservation? What guide or advice can you share? And also, I think it's also related with this advanced question. Are there any available courses or programs in the Philippines that offer yung museology or materials conservation?
What particular course? Science? Conservation?
Museum or art conservation po, sir.
In museology, in science, first in science conservation, none that I'm aware of, but NHCP offers technical workshops. NHCP, no, that you will be surprised that there are a lot of young staff there, no, na graduate talaga with chemist background. No? DOST, they can provide technical assistance, like the one that we did before. I requested if they can teach us the material behavior of textile. Kasi nga, we are doing research on the fiber or thread of canvas, no? Different canvas of our collection. They're quite also surprised, no, that us, the UST, will give you information about regarding museum materials. No, I told them it's all about the materials, no? It's not about the artwork or the art maker. So PTIR, the Philippine Textile Research Institute, they're quite impressed about the equipment they have. They're very complete. Or through apprenticeship, no? But apprenticeship programs, private conservation lab. You might want to ask some museum who has a private conservation lab, and some are into private practice ng mga conservators that I know that once in a while they accept apprenticeship, and maybe the last option is to go abroad. No? Nearest is the Johnny's institution. No, I mean not particular institution, but the National Heritage Board of Singapore. They're quite active, and I hope they still give short courses on conservation, science conservation for museums. In HCC, they call it HCC, and Heritage Conservation Center. We've been there already. I've been there. It's really impressive. University of Melbourne. Melbourne is quite active then with their laboratory conservation lab. In Australia, we have a colleague that from Australia. Her name is Nicole Shea. So she comes in on and off, So she did some research on pigment analysis of 19th century painting, I guess. So mostly in Japan, they have then courses. India, US, Europe, Italy. They have American schools in Italy that have a conservation laboratory. Museology here in the Philippines, we have courses now, I think, with parang introduction or not 100% museology. Art studies programs in UP Manila, UP College Arts and Letters in Diliman. Ateneo, I think they have arts program na rin. So that covers museology. I don't know if it's course or subject.
Thank you, sir. So ngayon naman po, meron tayong additional question. So from Ma'am Marichelle Orden Costales. So sabi niya, sir, some LGUs come up with the oldest photo contest, but after all submissions, they are at a loss how to process and utilize all these. So siguro, sir, it's a question of how do we reconcile and maximize this type of initiatives? Is it relevant to collect all types of old photos? Parang may dilemma sila, sir, kung lahat ba ng lumang larawan dapat ay kino-collect? How do we assess this?
Well, depende yan sa yung capability ng organizers on how to sustain that kind of program. Kasi it's a commitment. So for us, like in our town, here in Angono, Rizal, we made that kind of call na rin. Open call for submission of mga old photographs. Kaso digital lang. So kasi nga, we are, since fortunately here in Angono, Rizal, we don't have museum, no? Quite ironic, no? So we don't have museum here in Angono, Rizal. Kasi they say the entire town is the museum because a lot are visual artists and painters, no? But for as historical museum that houses all these mga historical pieces, wala. So, nagkaroon kami ng call na gano'n, but wala, yung commitment kasi importante rin eh. So, when you have commitment, mga tamang tao at tamang mga process, at ano yung program, ano yung plan, no? Na dapat kung original lang isasubmit, of course, that's a different responsibility from the owner, no? Pag nawala niyo yan, nasira niyo yan, mas maano yun, mas imbis na nakatulong kayo sa cultural program, mas sinira niyo yung cultural program, no? So dapat pinaplano, unang-una. Number 2, yung capability ng mga nagplano. And then sustainability, no? Kasi nga, pag original ang pinasubmit niyo, saan niyo i-store? Yung safety, yung safekeeping, no? So, security, safekeeping, yung mga ganun, no? So, yung capability of people who will handle the photographs, yung dapat naka-gloves, dapat maganda yung mga boxes, hindi aamagin, hindi at hindi mawawala. So, for me, those things are dapat i-consider nila.
Yes po. Thank you, sir. We agree. Kasi minsan, sir, may mga, I think may mga programs din na talagang na-excite, no? Yung mga contributors na mag-submit ng kanilang mga old photos, ganyan, or even old objects. And minsan, sa part ng organizers, no, it's really, may dilemma talaga kung ano i-retain at ano yung ibabalik. Most especially if, for example, merong pare-pareho yung sinubmit, no? Same material na papalumahan ito ng banga or ng plancha, ganon. So, magkakaroon talaga ng dilemma sa part ng organizers.
Ang maganda, digital muna. Digital images submission muna. So you can, walang redundancy at walang secure, diba? At nasa owner objects.
Pre-assess po muna. Okay, sir. Follow up ano lang po dun sa unang tanong ni Ma'am Marie Mendoza regarding programs on art conservation sa Philippines. Yun po yung, I think nasagot na po ito, no? What is a good choice of course to start leading to this career? So we have art history, for example. We also have other disciplines in the social sciences. But as we learned, no, this afternoon, pwede rin pong tayong may background on chemistry, no, biology even, or physics. Kasi museology or museum conservation is, again, both an arts and science. So it's very collaborative. So siguro po importante yung passion muna, no, ma-establish ng isang estudyante for heritage conservation, and then tsaka na lang niya i-lead later on kung anong career yung kanyang pipilian after niyang gumraduate. So yun po. Ito, sir, very interesting question from Ma'am Marichelle Orden Costales again. So, this time of the year, the budget preparation and budget hearings for LGUs for the ensuing year. How do we defend our proposed budgets for culture and arts programs and projects as compared to infra and economic projects that give back financial and economic returns in locality? Any tips po, sir? Yan. Very heavy and timely, no? It's yung ganitong questions. So, sige po.
Mahirap talaga. So, in terms of justification, no? And ano yung mga i-annex mo, mga papers, documents, no? To justify nga for you just to continue for another year because of this situation. So, medyo mabigat nga. So, kaya ngayon, nag-uusap-usap nga kami within NCCA and NCOM, Committee on Museums. So, isa sa mga problema, kaya puro pa-survey kami. So, with this survey, right now, ilalabas namin yon para makatulong. Actually, by region, sinisimulan na nila yung mga regional associations, yung pinakita sa inyo, yung SILAM, I don't know kung magkailan sila magsisimula. But for us, AGMAM, yung Alliance of Greater Manila Area Museums Organizations, lahat ng NCR museum na members namin, through CCP, ang nag-initiate nun, member namin. So, sila ang nag-initiate ng mga questionnaires, yung parang kumustahan, yung mga ganun. Parang Zoom-mustahan nangyari. So, tatanong namin, yung mga questionnaires yung maganda, no, na ano yung proseso na ginagawa. Inalam muna namin ang mga problema. And then, after that, we process it, and then I think it's still being processed na paano makakaroon na parang guidelines on this type of mga situations, like ayun nga, di ba? This is the last quarter for submission ng mga funding, especially local government ba siya?
Yes po, sir.
So, I guess naman kung meron namang normally kung local government, they have naman budgets set na yun aside for annual budget yun So, I don't know lang, kaya mahirap nga magsabi kung anong gagawin nila. Either ika-cut off nila or babawasan. May iba kami museum member na sa AGMAM. Unfortunately, nagbawas sila ng mga tao para lang makapag-continue sila ng operations. No? So, yung mga ganun, yung iba naman bawas ang sweldo or either bawas ang sweldo o tanggal ang mga staff na hindi masyadong kailangan. No? Kung mangyayari doon, multitasking ang mga tao ngayon. So baka ikaw naglalampaso na ng dahil wala ng mga staff na gano'n. Nagbabantay ng mga collections. No, for us, siguro it's more on the programming. Yung personally, for me, baka it's more on programming to make it more creative, to make it more expand ninyo, no? That's why I'm telling you, yung community programs within your locality, pwede nyo itap yun. Kasi once na malaki kayo, that's how for me, pwede nyo ma-convince na this is talagang cultural work. Cultural, ang product ito is more on the cultural heritage output, educational, na hindi lang ang museum magbe-benefit, kundi ang participation, kung collaborative effort ay within the community. So, malaki for me ang ma-convince siguro, mako-convince ninyo local government to sustain or to retain that allotted budget for the museum. Kasi makita nila buo na Hindi lang yung pang kami lang So siguro on the side, you make a program that's relevant with this situation, no? Yung mga rapid responses for this in this scenario with cultural arms like artists, mga craftsmen natin, yung mga ganun, no? Na talagang community-based ang makikinabang. Siguro, kahit ako naman, maatig naman ako nila. Malawak naman palang reach, no? So, i-retain ko yung budget nito museum.
Yes, sir. Thank you po. Ayan. So, I think it's a very common concern among our cultural workers, especially in the local government units, no? Yung ganitong tanong po.
Yes, sir.
Ayan, so sige po. Do we have other questions? I-type lang po natin ang ating katanungan sa Zoom chat para mabasa po ng ating moderators. Or if wala po kayong questions, you may also give your comments on the discussion. If you have additional insights also, or experiences, local experiences in doing heritage work, you may also comment them here.
So siguro pahabol ko lang sa last question. So siguro yung ibang technique na ginagawa, yung mga nababasa ko ngayon, yung ibang napag-usapan namin sa committee. Usually they provide technical services with other colleagues, no? Like for us in the Lopez Museum, siguro baka mag-strategize kami to provide our services, no? So ang mahirap kasi doon, ang titignan, balikan natin yung yung ICOM definition that we are non-profit. So, we are not non-profit, therefore, we cannot charge, we cannot, diba, yung mga pinakakita, kumikitang kabuhayan, yung mga programs, no?
Yes po.
Completely contradict the museum definition, no? But in this case, I think it should be, siguro, isa-segue ng konti lang, no? The non-profit aspect of that definition. Kasi nga, this is the survival of the fittest ngayon, ating scenario. So siguro, if pwede, iparent ninyo yung iba, pinaparent yung mga spaces for mga mga wedding shoots o mga but of course with caution, no? Space rental. There's an article shared by Butcherera of Ateneo Art Gallery sa Facebook 2 days ago that there's a pay-per-use idea of the space, no? Of their museum. So this is part of the income generating programs. So, mga bukod dyan sa kasi ticket sales, mababa, walang kumikita sa ticket sales, no? So, tsaka yung iba naman, posible daw, baka pwede mga paid, yung mga webinars na ganito, no? You can charge minimum amount because this is transfer of technology, no? Transfer of knowledge. So, parang workshop na rin to. So, para kumatin ng workshop, just give certificates and then yung digital certificates and na kailangan nila, lalo na mga government officials, na nakakatulong sa kanila yan. So, Yun, ang mga ano doon, no? And then, on the other side, no? On the other hand, siguro this is the time, no? Yung kasi may tinatawag tayong collections policy in the museum. So collections policy should be updated as well, no? Doon sa lahat ng museums. Dahil nga, lalo na sa recent disaster management, no? Lahat tayo, no? Quite surprised dito sa mga nangyaring to. So sa amin kasi, we have that collections management policy that we follow. That, well, we need to update that as well, no? Pero yung, nandun yung kasi mga kategory ng natural calamity, man-made. Kasi ngayon, hindi, very low yung anticipation namin before doon, no? Kahit hanapin niya sa international protocols, meron ng listahan na what to do, DIY, no? In case of man-made, natural calamity. So ngayon, nangyari na lahat eh. Remember, natural calamity, we have Taal and Yolanda. Hindi namin na-expect yun. Sa last page yun, hindi namin binabasa yun. Usually, mga insects lang kami, leak, yung mga ganong recent disaster.
Yes po.
Tapos ngayon, nangyari na, man-made, Lebanon, and Marawi. Diba?
Yes. Right.
So now we need to craft these issues, yung mga rat sa NCCA. Actually, next week, meron kaming meeting. No? I was invited to be part of the group na we need to create rapid response policy in NCCA to be distributed to all museums in the Philippines para to address the situation immediately sa mga rapid cases na ito. For the COVID-19 situations natin.
Thank you, sir. So, again, do we have more questions from the participants?
Baka may mga pahabol pa pong questions, so pakitype na lang po sa may Zoom chat box po. Or erase niyo yung hand niyo kung gusto niyo maki-interact po sa speaker po.
So, habang naghihintay, partner, ano yung mga ano mo? Ikaw naman, anong yung insights or comments sa ating talakayan ngayong hapon?
Yun nga, maganda yung presentation kasi napaka-comprehensive niya. Tsaka, para tayong nag-journey actually sa museum din. Kasi with those pictures, tapos hindi lang natin nakita yung mga artifacts, yung mga artworks, yung mga paintings, yung mga sculptures. But we saw din yung behind the scenes, how you handle,
right.
How you take care of those artifacts. So, napaka-meticulous pala, like sobrang ang daming kailangan i-consider. Dapat magaling ka, dapat matalino ka kasi 'di ba? Tapos it's very collaborative kasi hindi lang curators, dapat may mga scientists din, may mga biologists, may mga chemists. Silang bahala dun sa mga chemicals na ginagamit, yung mga materials na ginagamit. So iba-iba. So, ayun lang. So, hindi lang siya space, no? Hindi lang siya space. Yung museum, hindi lang siya space, hindi lang siya espasyo, hindi lang siya building, no? But it's an institution kasi may social and educational function siya. Kasi you collaborate with communities, you know? You work with people, diba? So, it's not alive kapag walang visitors, diba?
Yes.
Yes,
right.
Ayun.
Ayan. Perfect. Mataas ang grado mo kay Sir Peter. Ayan.
Yes.
Sir Dave.
Thanks.
Partner.
Any more insights from the participants? Kung gusto niyo makilahok sa chikahan or what?
Comments po. Additional comments.
Yeah, comments.
Uwian na daw.
Uwian na. Ako naman, sir, favorite ko yung yung Distillera Limtua ko. Parang gusto ko ring matry yung mga doon.
Try that.
We should try that.
Alam mo yung gasim ka na natututo ka pa.
Yes.
I didn't know that sila gumagawa ng kulafu, syoktong, andun pa. Na-preserve nila yung mga first, mga materials nila andun. Very interesting.
Apo.
Centramuros siya na, Centramuros. Isang question?
Question po. I'm not sure kung nasagot na po kanina or what, pero baka gusto lang po ng clarification ni Mr. Flores po. So, paano po paano po ba hinahandle ang mga materials na inamag na?
Una-una, literally, huwag niyo i-handle siya. Kailangan naka-gloves, no?
Yes.
No? Dahil po, when I showed the slide, nung nasa Met pa ako, that siguro 20 pieces yata yon. Sorry, kalimutan yung ganun kalalaking frame na puro amag. So, kulang pa ako sa knowledge ng mga ganun. So, kaya ako natututo dahil sa mga ganun. Ako naging ginipig sa sarili ko. So, 1 week akong nagkasakit nun. No? Na-expose ako sa amag. Kasi nga, pala ko rock and roll lang kaya ko pa. No? Bata pa. So, yung amag, no? So, ano yan, no? Yung nasa hangin. So, naka-gloves dapat. Yung mga pinakita kong gloves sa inyo. Depende sa materials, no? So, kung book siya, archives, lalo nang dapat mas maingat. Kasi, organic material lahat to. And then, kung nakita ninyo na hindi siya damp, hindi siya masa-masa, pwede nyo i-brush ninyo sa isang separate area na mas maganda, medyo lalabas lang kayo ng konti. Huwag naman labas ng kalsada, no? But labas outside the museum na merong area na safe, malilim, pwede i-brush off ninyo, no? Yung malambot na brush, no? Parang pinapagpag at binabrush off lang. And then pag nakita ninyo, usually kasi yung amag, kahit natanggal na yan, pag nakatikim na naman ng mga ng medyo damp na panahon, tulad ngayon parang uulan o maulan, especially monsoon season, no? So nabubuhay yan, lumalabas yan. So do not expose it directly doon sa sinabi ko sa inyo yung UV light. Normally, pinufumigate namin yon. Kung wala kayong facility equipment, might as well do not fumigate na lang, no? Kasi yung safety ng tao ang first, no? So baka lalo kayong mapahamak. Ang mga fumigant especially are carcinogenic, no? Especially when mixed with alcohol, no? Kasi those are the two mixture, no? Para dichlorobenzene and 80% ethyl alcohol. So pag sumingaw yun, kasi kaya nga nasa fumigation chamber, sealed siya, hindi siya exposed sa tao. At the same time, concentrated yung fumigant sa loob ng fumigation chamber. But minsan pwede naman kaso do it at your own risk, no? Ang ginagawa namin, tinuturo namin yung ano ba to? Isang product sa CR, yung parang may seagull na that's I forgot the brand name. So Albatros, yeah. So Albatros is pure paradichlorobenzene. Mm-hmm. So dinidikdik namin, pinapadigdik namin, ididikdik siya, tapos ihahalo siya dun sa alcohol, no? Wag yung alcohol na nasa shelf, no? Yung alcohol over the counter sa Mercury Drug Stores, yung mga 80%, 75% ethyl alcohol. And then one part nun, powder nun, one part ng alcohol na yun. Ilalagay sa beaker. Wag sa plastic kasi matutunaw yun. And then, dapat meron lang kayo talagang sealed container, yung mga plastic bin na malalaki, na secured, hindi siya walang gagalaw for 7 days. Tapos yun, i-expose mo siya dun sa fumigant na create mo. So, pag tinanggal mo yun, kailangan pasigawin mo siya ng maghapon, isang araw. Huwag yung pagbukas mo, parang nakaganon ka pa sa container. Talagang mahihilo ka dun, no? That's carcinogenic, yung ginawa mo ng formula na yun. So, kaya hindi namin masyado in-encourage nun, but do it at your own risk. Pag kailangan lang talaga. So, you need proper equipment, protective equipment sa sarili mo, mask. Hindi lang yung mask na yung nabibili yung mask, ha? Hindi talagang yung N95, bago pa na ako sa N95, suki na kami ng N95. No? So, yun yung binibinan, yung overall cover face na. And then, yun, sa isang kwarto na walang gumagalaw kasi nga, highly carcinogenic siya. So, maghapon, i-release yun, and then that's the time. Hopefully, matutuyo na yun eventually, yung amag na yun, patay na siya sa loob. No? So, yun. Kaso mahirap doon, yung disposal of the chemical. So, kaya nga dapat regulated din, no? Dahil kaya nga may laboratory, dahil laboratory standard lahat ng mga equipment facility na even sa disposal mo. With high caution. Huwag basta-basta. Ha? Baka may pasabihin, nahilo ako, mali yung sinabi ni Peter. Hindi ko kasalanan, sinabi ako kanya.
Baka. Ayun.
Huwag kayo mag-expect ng mga chemical formula na tuturo ko sa inyo. Because preventive conservation na talaga ang mas maganda talaga approach. Case to case, no?
Ayun. Sir, siguro last question na no, for this webinar from Ma'am Marie Mendoza again. So, for personally owned antiques daw po, if it goes through restoration, will the value decrease? Kapag siguro may ginawa ka na doon sa ano.
Yaman na ni Maria, nangongolekta na. Big time na si Marie. I know her. So, dati siya nag-handle ng mga collections din to sa isang institution.
Yes
So,
po.
personally owned antiques, if it goes to restoration, yes, so depende sa pag-restore, no? At depende sa damage. Normally naman habang nire-restore siya, partly na-damage pa rin siya. Kasi nga may mga dinadaanan siya. But make sure na yung restorer ninyo makukuha, kasi bilang na bilang lang sa kamay natin ang talagang official at legit na restorer sa Pilipinas. At hindi ako doon, hindi ako isa doon, hindi ako nagpa-practice. So when I say official na legit na bilang sa kamay ang mga restorer sa Pilipinas, of course, isa na rito sa mga national museums, sa national government institution, NHCP, but yung mga private practice bilang na bilang lang. No? Kasi nga, yung iba, sasabihin restorer, naka-attend lang ng mga 1 week seminar, workshop, online ngayon, restorer na. So, hindi ganun ang restorer ng kanyang background. No? Ang restorer dapat talaga, course siya, isang kurso talaga na tinapos na kurso. No? So, yun ang talagang asahan mo talagang but not necessarily magaling na magaling. No? May foreigner dito sa atin, sa Pilipinas na magaling. Kung foreigner, ang galing. Pero personally, hindi ako nakitang sinira niya. No? So, nasira in terms of yung pigment, yung pag-overpaint, yung pag-repair ng mga paint na nawala, na nabagsak, mas lalo pang pumangit. No? So, background yung check ng conservator, and then ano yung mga client before, yung mga testimonials, baka meron. So, you do your research, no? And then, tanong-tanong kayo sa mga colleagues ng museum. And then, magdi-decrease siya talaga kung badly restored, especially, no? Badly restored siya. But if it is really restored in a talagang high standard na restoration process, na hindi halatang na-restore, that's a good chance na it will retain, no? It will retain the conservation. And that dapat meron kayong record, no? Pag na-restore niyo yung mga collection niyo, meron kayong record ng mga treatment record na tinatawag. So alam niyo kung ano yung mga nilagay o ano yung mga ginamot na part ng artwork. So yung karamihan ng mga conservators ng mga fly-by-night o mga experience na ng 2-week seminar, walang idea kung ano yung treatment report nga eh. So treatment report, that's yung parang sa hospital, yung babalikan ninyo kung ano yung mga pinainom mo ng biogesic, pinainom ba ng mga ano, di ba? So at least pag may nakita kayong sira o pangit, pwede niyong balikan. At number one, important term lagi doon is reversible. Okay?
Yes.
So dapat after 10 years, may bagong technology, yung ipinatong kong pigment o pinatong kong varnish, matatanggal at makikita yung dating damage. That's part of yung protocol, no, ng restoration.
Wow. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so kung wala na pong questions or additional comments from the participants, so
Yes,
any concluding remarks po, Sir Natividad? Or kung may gusto po kayong batiin or yes.
Shout out.
Shout out. Before natin formally end yung webinar po.
Wala lang, hi to myself.
Ayan, thank you daw po Sir Peter from Marie Mendoza. Ayan. Tsaka mga ilan din po tayong mga dito participants na nag-thank you kanina. Ayan. Sige po.
Yes. So, kung wala na po, I think we can end the webinar now. So, stay safe everyone.
Maraming salamat po ulit.
Maraming salamat po.
And of course, Sir Peter, thank you so much for the learnings. No? Sobrang makabuluhan ng ating discussions ngayong hapon. Sobrang dami po naming natutunan. So maraming salamat po.
Marami po, sana po maraming natutunan. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita. So siguro huling salita na lang. So sa mga interested pa rin sa museum work or cultural work, huwag kayo mahihiya magtanong, no? Sa mga colleague na tayo ngayon. No? So dahil sa interest ninyo na sa programang ito. So huwag kayo maya magtanong, mag-research sa inyong mga cultural hour natin, no, ng mga iba-ibang agencies. Alamin ninyo kung saan yung mga tamang pwesto na interest ninyo. So andito lang kami, kung gusto niyo mga assistance, mas maganda magtanong, no, kaysa yung mag-experiment kayo, na lalo na kung mga cultural objects pinag-uusapan. Dahil these objects are your identity in your area, and these are our cultural heritage assets. No? So magtanong na kayo, at tayong lahat dito ay colleague. No? Walang ano dito. Walang talaga magalibo. Lahat tayo kailangan magtulungan, lalo na ngayon. No? So thank you again sa inyo, sa organizers, Y4PH, sa pag-imbita. At congrats sa inyo.
Thank you po. Thank you, sir. And to our participants as well, if you want to ask for technical assistance, for example, you may also reach Sir Peter. So mag-message lang po kayo sa aming page. At i-refer po namin kayo kay Sir Peter in case you have needs in your specific agencies, LGUs man yan or other institutions. Ayan. So maraming salamat po.